In this section of training, we will preview an Orton-Gillingham lesson. We'll discuss some of the Orton-Gillingham components that you will be observing, offer some teacher tips, and provide some suggestions for delivery. In order to participate in this piece of training, you'll need your lesson plan packet from the front of your manual. One of the characteristics that makes an Orton-Gillingham lesson different from a traditional phonics lesson is the consistency in which lesson plan content is delivered. When we deliver an OG lesson with fidelity, we're able to prevent students from being bogged down by unclear or varying directions. Instead, students can focus their mental energy on learning the content. One of the things that we know from cognitive scientists is that if we use old and familiar procedures to learn new content, our brain can focus on the content. If we need to teach a new procedure, we should do so with familiar content, allowing students to focus their energy and brain power on learning the steps of the procedure. Another difference in an Orton-Gillingham lesson is its intentional design. Each component and its accompanying procedure has a purpose. Instructors should not skip or eliminate lesson components. It is also important that students engage or participate throughout. We offer the following tips for maximizing student engagement. First, maintain a brisk pace. We want it to be quick and challenging enough to require students to exert effort, thus maintaining their interest, but slow enough to avoid any frustration that may cause them to opt out. Second, we encourage use of choral responses. This is applicable in every component of the lesson. As we walk through modeling and demonstrating an OG lesson throughout training, notice how we use choral responses to involve all participants. If you find that you don't have sufficient time to cover the entire OG lesson as written, we recommend that you scale back the amount of content in each component, rather than eliminate components. For example, if your lesson plan includes 10 words to read, you may need to scale that back to 5 and shorten the time, rather than eliminating the component altogether. On the screen, you see a portion of Training Lesson 1 from your lesson packet. Every OG lesson begins with review. Review is accomplished in a part-to-whole structure. We begin this lesson with alphabet knowledge. In this activity, we are working on learning the letters in alphabetical order. The teacher points to the wall cards as students say the letters. We want to be certain that students clearly articulate LMNO. The activity after this is phoneme segmentation. This lesson is still early in the year, so we are still using the red and blue hand templates for students. The next activity is a visual drill, which in this lesson is reviewing letter names, keywords, and sounds in isolation. We then shift to a tactile drill, which adds the formation of letters along with review of letter names, keywords, and sounds. As you can see, in this lesson some components are not taught yet, such as blending drill and review words to read. Components are added slowly to support students with automaticity of procedures. After review components, our attention shifts to teaching something new. In this lesson, students are learning about the letter D, its name, keyword, sound, and letter formation. We use direct, explicit instruction to introduce new content, and then it's added to the review portion of the lesson. This ensures that students remain engaged by learning something new each lesson, but also getting the repetition they need to become automatic and accurate. In later lessons, after students have received direct instruction, they will immediately apply the new skill in reading words. After the Teach New component of an OG lesson, our attention shifts to the encoding components. Just as we did in the decoding section of the OG lesson, we'll be working on a part-to-whole model and from review to new. During encoding, students move from the meeting area to tables or desks. This brief transition is enough for most students to reset their brains, as well as the transition from reading to writing. The materials students will need are student response sheets or SRS and pens or pencils without erasers. We don't want students erasing their answers for a couple of reasons. One, we want to see the mistakes our students are making. And 2, students lose valuable time erasing and become frustrated when they can't keep up with their teacher and peers. On the right of your screen, you see a sample of an SRS. We'll talk in more depth about the SRS in another video. Looking at the left-hand side of your screen, we begin the encoding section with handwriting. The handwriting portion has a specific script that we use to support students with correct letter formation. Next is an auditory drill. In an auditory drill, we work on isolating letter names, sounds, keywords, and eventually position of sounds in words. We then shift to the new phonogram, which is the new concept taught during the lesson. In this lesson, it is the letter D, so students would say D, dog, D, as they write the letter D 3 times. Eventually, we will practice spelling words with the new concept. But until then, we will shift our focus to memory words. Memory words are words that students do not have the skills to decode or encode. They're either words that are not yet fair to them or are phonetically irregular. We have a video that talks more about memory words. The encoding portion of an OG lesson usually concludes with sentence dictation. Sentence dictation is cumulative review. This is the ultimate goal of the encoding portion of the lesson. Can the student write a sentence and apply all the skills that they've learned? This component will be added in later lessons. The next section in an OG lesson is phonemic awareness. To help students reset their brains again, have them move back to the meeting area. The phonemic awareness skills will change as you move along in lessons. The last section in our OG lessons is fluency. In this lesson, the fluency practice is letter naming. Students practice becoming automatic and accurate with naming letters that have been previously taught. Eventually, fluency practice will be with connected text. This means that students will be reading text that is fair and decodable. In just a moment, you will have an opportunity to observe an OG lesson. We encourage you to read through the training lesson plan for Lesson 1 and look at the materials that will be used in the plan. We encourage you to play the role of the student. Please make notes of any questions. This concludes the preview portion of training.